What if the formula you've been following your whole life, the one you were told would lead you to success, fulfillment, purpose, was never meant to work in the first place? What if the hustle you glorified, the endless grind, the sleepless nights chasing dreams that always seemed just out of reach, was the very reason those dreams keep slipping through your fingers? From the moment we're old enough to understand ambition, we're fed the same script. Work harder than everyone else. Stay up later. Wake up earlier. Sacrifice everything. Push until it hurts, then keep going. Society praises the grind, worships the struggle, and labels burnout as a badge of honor. We're told success is earned only through pain, that the only way to win is to outsuffer the competition. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one tells you. The harder you chase something, the more it runs. The more force you apply, the more resistance you create. And in that desperation, in that obsessive pursuit of what you think you want, you begin to push the very thing you desire further away. It's not because you're not good enough. It's because you're stuck in a system that rewards effort, not energy. A system that glorifies movement, but ignores alignment. You've been sprinting on a treadmill, convinced you're going somewhere, when in reality, you're trapped, running in place, chasing a finish line that doesn't exist. Over 90% of people never achieve the goals they set for themselves, and it's not for lack of talent, not for lack of desire. It's because they've internalized the wrong law. They believe life is a linear path, that if they just do more, success will eventually arrive. But real success, the kind that feels effortless, natural, and deeply fulfilling, doesn't come to those who chase. It comes to those who become. What if the key to everything you're seeking, wealth, love, peace, freedom, was already within your reach, but your constant striving, your obsession with trying to get there, is the very thing blocking it from showing up? Desperation emits lack, and lack never attracts abundance. You may say you want success, but if your energy screams, "I need this or I'm nothing," the universe will echo that message right back to you. Nothing. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it all, they aren't chasing. They aren't grasping. They're aligned. They've tapped into something deeper, something older. They've learned, whether consciously or intuitively, to flip the script, to embody what they desire, instead of begging for it to arrive. This is the beginning of a new way of thinking, a new way of being. And it starts with asking one simple, terrifying question. What if everything you were told about success was a lie? You were never told there was a cost, not up front, not in the books or the speeches or the motivational mantras. You were told to dream big, to work hard, to go after everything you've ever wanted like your life depended on it. But no one warned you that chasing with desperation comes with a price, and the price is you. It starts slowly. You begin trading peace for pressure, clarity for chaos. You lose touch with your intuition because the noise of urgency drowns it out. Every moment becomes a transaction, another piece of your soul bartered for some future promise of fulfillment. But that future never arrives. The goalpost moves, the finish line dissolves into fog, and still, you keep running. This isn't motivation, it's manipulation. You were taught that if you weren't struggling, you weren't doing it right. That ease was laziness. That alignment was fantasy. That flow was reserved for artists and monks, not for people who actually wanted to win. So you clenched your jaw, buried your fear, and convinced yourself the pain was noble. But let's be honest. How much longer can you keep pretending that this path is working? Take a breath and look around. How many people do you know who are truly free, not just financially, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. How many people have sacrificed their entire lives chasing an idea of success that wasn't even theirs to begin with? Most are trapped, not because they're lazy, not because they're stupid, but because they've bought into a system that rewards movement over stillness, reaction over reflection, force over flow. And the result? Millions of people grinding endlessly, secretly terrified that if they stop, even for a moment, everything they've built will collapse. But what if that collapse is the beginning of something better? What if the tower you're clinging to was never built to support the weight of your real potential? What if you've been measuring your worth with a broken scale? Here's the truth they won't teach you in school, in business seminars, or even in most self-help books. Success isn't something you chase, it's something you align with. And alignment requires the courage to stop running, to pause, to feel, to question, to stand still long enough to ask yourself, what am I really chasing, and why? Because until you ask that, you'll remain trapped in the same invisible loop. More effort, more grind, more exhaustion, and less joy, less meaning, less you. Desperation isn't always loud. It doesn't always look like breakdowns, chaos, or failure. In fact, most of the time, it hides in plain sight. In your discipline, in your relentless drive, in your obsession with becoming more. It wears a mask of productivity and ambition. You think you're focused. You think you're just doing what it takes. But behind the grind, there's fear. Fear that if you slow down, you'll fall behind. Fear that you'll be forgotten, overlooked, irrelevant. Fear that you, as you are right now, aren't enough. So you run faster, push harder, stack goals on top of goals. You convince yourself this is growth, but it's not growth. It's panic disguised as purpose. And here's where it gets dangerous. When you chase anything from a place of lack, whether it's success, money, recognition, or love, you carry with you the energy of not having. You say, I want this, but what the universe hears is, I don't have this, and I need it to feel whole. That neediness is a repellent. It doesn't attract what you desire. It pushes it further away. This is why some people seem to work 10 times harder and get half the results. Because no matter how much effort they apply, their energy is still rooted in scarcity. The mindset is this: if I can just get it, I'll finally be enough. But you can't manifest abundance from the frequency of desperation. You can't attract love when you're radiating abandonment. And you'll never feel fulfilled if your entire life is built on the belief that something out there needs to complete you. Think back to a time when you chased something with all your energy, a relationship, a job, a dream. Remember how everything felt tight, anxious, uncertain. That's not alignment, that's force. And anything built from force is fragile. The truth is, you can't fake your frequency. You can't grind your way into alignment. The universe, or life itself, whatever name you give to it, doesn't respond to how hard you try. It responds to who you are, and who you are is defined by your state of being, not your resume. This is the beginning of a shift. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth and start embodying it, that's when everything begins to change. Because success doesn't arrive when you finally earn it. It arrives when you stop chasing and become the kind of person who naturally receives it. You've been taught to move, to hustle, to run after what you want with everything you've got. That's the narrative. That's what sells. And so, for years, maybe even your whole life, you've been sprinting toward money, toward success, toward love, toward approval. You've told yourself, if I can just get there, I'll finally be okay. But no one told you what there actually feels like, or that chasing it could keep it out of reach forever. The people who seem to effortlessly attract what they want, they're not the ones grinding 20 hours a day, begging for attention or fighting to be seen. They're the ones who have learned how to stop chasing, not because they're lazy, but because they've discovered the truth. Chasing sends the wrong signal to your mind, your body, and the universe. It tells the world you're in lack. It says, I need this to feel complete. And the more you identify with that lack, the more of it you get. Detachment isn't giving up. It's letting go of the fear that says you must control everything or lose everything. It's the shift from trying to get to learning how to be. And that shift is everything. Consider the painter who stopped trying to impress galleries. The moment he stopped painting for approval, the moment he painted simply because he loved it, everything changed. Suddenly, people came to him. Collectors, curators, admirers, all drawn to his work, not because he tried harder, but because he finally aligned with the reason he started in the first place. That's the paradox. When you stop needing it, it arrives, and that's the beginning of real power. Not the kind of power that comes from controlling outcomes, but the power that comes from alignment, from knowing who you are and trusting that what is meant for you will find you without force. So the question becomes, who are you when you're not chasing? What kind of energy do you carry when you finally release the desperation? That's who the world responds to. Not the version of you begging to be seen, but the one who knows they already are. There's a fundamental difference between wanting something and being the kind of person who naturally receives it. Most people live their lives stuck in the former, wanting, wishing, hoping. They build vision boards, repeat affirmations, and hustle endlessly, all while secretly carrying the belief that they still aren't enough. That success, love, fulfillment, all live somewhere outside of them, always one step ahead, always just out of reach. But the universe doesn't reward desire. It doesn't respond to how badly you want something. It responds to your frequency, the energy you radiate, even when you think no one's watching. And frequency isn't created by action alone. It's created by identity. Take a moment and think about the kind of person you admire, the one who seems to effortlessly attract opportunities, relationships, and success. Do they chase? Do they beg? Or do they simply exist in a way that draws everything in? That's not luck. That's embodiment. That's the result of someone who stopped pretending and started becoming. When you embody success, you speak, move, and make decisions like someone who already has what they want. Not arrogantly, not performatively, but with a quiet, grounded certainty. You're no longer chasing money. You're aligned with abundance. You're no longer desperate for love. You are love. You're not proving your worth. You're living it. This is why some people can walk into a room and shift the entire energy without saying a word. Their presence doesn't ask. It declares. Because they're not performing. They're aligned. And alignment is louder than effort will ever be. To reach that level, you don't need to do more. You need to stop chasing, stop doubting, and stop shrinking to fit into the story that was never yours. Begin showing up as the version of you who already lives the life you want. Feel it, believe it, walk like it's already done. Because when your energy aligns with your desires, you stop needing. You start attracting. We live in a world obsessed with effort. Work harder, they say. Grind now, shine later. Success is framed as a mountain to be climbed with bloodied hands and blistered feet. And if you're not exhausted, if you're not suffering, then clearly you're not trying hard enough. But what if this was never the way? What if the constant struggle, the burnout, the anxiety are signs not of progress, but of misalignment? Effort is not the problem. Effort is beautiful when it flows from a place of passion and alignment. But when it's driven by fear, by the belief that without it, you'll be forgotten or left behind, it becomes a form of self-sabotage. You end up running faster just to stay in place because your effort is rooted in lack, not power. That's the illusion. Society has convinced you that the grind is noble, that the more you suffer, the more you'll be rewarded. But suffering isn't a currency. Pain isn't proof of progress. And grinding doesn't guarantee growth. Look at those who have risen to the top, truly risen. Not through manipulation or shortcuts, but through presence. They do not move chaotically. Their power is not in their busyness, it's in their clarity. They move with intention, not panic. Their success is not the result of scrambling for attention, it's the byproduct of becoming undeniable. Effort is meant to be an extension of your energy, not a compensation for your insecurity. When you're aligned, effort becomes effortless. You're not forcing, you're flowing. The hours disappear not because you're grinding, but because you're fully immersed in purpose. That's when life begins to move with you, not against you. So if you're exhausted, if you're pushing and nothing's moving, ask yourself, is your effort a signal of your power or a mask for your fear? Because once you learn to tell the difference, everything changes. You stop chasing outcomes and start aligning with a process that doesn't require you to burn out just to be seen. True success doesn't come from overexertion. It comes from coherence, when your thoughts, your actions, and your energy all speak the same language. And that language is not desperation. It's presence, it's knowing, it's calm, powerful certainty. We've been taught that motion equals progress, that if you're not constantly moving, you're falling behind. That stillness is laziness. That slowing down is weakness. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Some of the most powerful shifts in life don't happen in the noise. They happen in the silence, in the stillness, in the space between the breath. When you're constantly chasing, constantly running, constantly doing, you never give yourself the chance to actually be, to hear what your intuition is trying to whisper, to feel the pull of what truly resonates. When you fill every second with movement, you drown out the very signals trying to guide you toward your highest path. Stillness isn't the absence of progress. It's the space where real progress begins. It's where your energy recalibrates, where your nervous system returns to balance, where your clarity returns. And most importantly, it's where your magnetism is built. Think of nature. The sun doesn't rise with a roar. It emerges in silence, and yet the whole world responds. The ocean doesn't chase the shore. It simply arrives, again and again, in rhythm, without effort. Power doesn't always need to announce itself. Sometimes the most magnetic energy is the quietest in the room. When you learn to sit in stillness, not with anxiety, not with fear, but with presence, you become a vessel for attraction. You send a different signal to the world. I'm not chasing. I already am. And from that space, life begins to meet you. People feel it. Opportunities sense it. Reality begins to bend to your frequency. But make no mistake, stillness takes courage. It means facing your discomfort instead of distracting from it. It means trusting that you're enough even when you're not producing. It means letting go of the need to force and allowing space for flow. The irony is, what most people are chasing, peace, abundance, fulfillment, all live on the other side of stillness. But they never arrive because we never stop running long enough to let them in. So the next time you feel the urge to chase, to control, to panic, pause, breathe, sit with yourself, reclaim your energy. Because the more grounded you become, the more the world starts to move toward you. There is a silent architect behind every outcome in your life. Your beliefs, not the ones you speak out loud when you're trying to sound confident, but the quiet ones, the ones that sit beneath your actions, silently pulling strings, the ones you may not even know exist, but they shape everything. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they're living out an identity they never consciously chose, a set of assumptions installed by parents, teachers, society, or pain. Money is hard to earn. I'm not good enough. Love has to be earned. These ideas aren't truths. They're inherited limitations masquerading as facts. And here's the catch. You can't outperform your identity. You can hustle, you can force, you can grind. But if deep down you believe you're not worthy of success, you'll find a way to sabotage it. Every single time. Because the subconscious doesn't care what you want. It only delivers what you expect. That's why the same patterns repeat, the same relationships, the same financial ceilings, the same almost successes that crumble just before the finish line. It's not because you're cursed. It's because your identity hasn't caught up with your potential. The game changes when you stop asking, "How do I get what I want?" and start asking, "Who would I be if I already had it?" Because once you assume that identity, once you begin to think, feel, and act like the person who already has what they desire, reality starts to shift. Not because of magic, because your energy becomes congruent. And congruence is magnetic. Take a moment. Think about your highest self, the version of you who has it all together, who's grounded, abundant, loved, powerful. How do they speak? How do they carry themselves? What do they tolerate? What do they no longer chase? Now ask yourself, what would change in your life if you stopped waiting to become that person and just decided to be them now? The shift doesn't happen when you achieve the goal. It happens the moment you stop aligning with the old story and start embodying a new one. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. If you feel stuck, if you feel like no matter how hard you push, nothing moves, it's not because the world is against you. It's because somewhere deep inside, you're still playing out an old script, one you didn't write, one that was written for you long before you were old enough to question it. Your subconscious mind is a recording device. In your earliest years, it absorbed everything. How your parents spoke about money, how they reacted to failure, how love was given or withheld. Those moments, subtle and unnoticed, became your operating system. They built the story you live by today. And here's the part no one talks about. Until you rewrite that story, you'll keep living it over and over again, no matter how badly you want something different. Think about it. How many times have you tried to change your life? How many books have you read? How many affirmations have you whispered? How many times have you promised that this time it will be different, only to watch yourself fall back into the same patterns? It's not because you're weak. It's because you're loyal to an identity that no longer fits, loyal to a belief that says, "I'm not ready yet," or "I don't deserve this," or "It's just not meant for me." But here's the truth. Every belief can be rewritten. Every identity can be shed. You are not fixed in place. You are fluid, evolving. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself you were told to become. You are allowed to become someone new, someone powerful, grounded, magnetic. That process begins with awareness. You can't change what you don't first confront. So look closely. What's the recurring story in your life? Is it struggle? Rejection? Almost getting what you want, then watching it slip away? These aren't just coincidences. They are reflections of your inner script. Now, are you brave enough to stop reading from that script? Are you willing to write a new one? Because the second you do, the world shifts. Not immediately, maybe, but inevitably. Your identity stops sabotaging your desires and starts aligning with them. Your energy stops resisting the life you want and begins attracting it. This is what real transformation looks like, not just in what you do, but in who you decide to become. At some point, you have to ask yourself a question that will change everything. What if I stopped forcing and started flowing? Because while most of the world is obsessed with doing more, grinding harder, waking earlier, sacrificing deeper, the people who live in true alignment have discovered something else entirely. They've traded force for flow. Force is heavy. It's rooted in fear. It says, if I don't control every step, I'll fail. It says, if I'm not constantly pushing, I'm falling behind. Force makes life feel like a battle, one you're always on the verge of losing. It burns you out, breaks you down, and blinds you to the truth that the universe doesn't respond to force. It responds to alignment. Flow, on the other hand, is light, not because it's passive, but because it's powerful without resistance. Flow doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what's right at the right time with the right energy. It means trusting that when you move with alignment, doors open, that what you're seeking is already seeking you. And the moment you stop gripping it so tightly, it finds its way in. Think of the last time things just worked. Not because you forced them, but because they fit. A conversation that turned into an opportunity, an idea that arrived effortlessly, a moment that changed everything, without struggle. That was flow. That was you aligning with something bigger than your plans. And yet, we're conditioned to distrust it. We think if it's not hard, it must not be real. If it came easily, it can't be valuable. But that's a lie. The most powerful forces in nature, gravity, magnetism, the tides, don't scream. They don't chase. They pull. Silently, consistently, effortlessly. You can live like that too. But it starts with letting go. Letting go of the need to force things into place. Letting go of your timelines, your expectations, your need to prove your worth. Flow is found in surrender, not as weakness, but as mastery. When you release the urge to chase, you allow life to meet you. And more often than not, what it brings is better than what you were fighting for. The question is, are you ready to stop pushing and start flowing? There comes a moment when you stop asking, what do I need to do? And begin asking, who do I need to become? That moment is now. Because the truth is, nothing changes until you do. The world won't suddenly open its arms just because you've suffered long enough. It won't bend to your will because you've tried harder than everyone else. It only bends when your energy bends, when your identity shifts, when you stop showing up as someone who's chasing and start showing up as someone who already is. Most people never get here. They're too attached to the grind, too loyal to the version of themselves that needs to earn everything the hard way. But that version is addicted to resistance. It believes success only comes through suffering. That ease is a lie. That flow is weakness. And as long as that version drives your life, you'll stay trapped in effort, forever chasing, forever just out of reach. But when you shift, when you truly shift, you become magnetic. Magnetic people don't force. They don't beg. They don't exhaust themselves trying to be enough. They move with certainty. They act with presence. They walk into a room and change it, not because they speak louder, but because they don't need to. They don't seek attention. They draw it, not because they're pretending to be something they're not, but because they've become someone the universe can't ignore. That is your potential, not to chase success, but to attract it, not by doing more, but by being more aligned. This isn't about arrogance or blind confidence. It's about inner knowing. It's about becoming the version of yourself who no longer questions whether they're worthy, because they embody worthiness, not someday. Now this is where the backwards law becomes real, not just a concept, but a way of existing. The moment you stop trying to prove yourself, you become undeniable. Ask yourself this: if the person who already had everything you want lived inside you, how would they speak today? What would they do differently? What would they no longer tolerate? What would they finally allow? This isn't about pretending. It's about alignment. When your inner world and outer world finally mirror each other, when your thoughts, your actions, your energy all move as one, you no longer pursue success. You pull it toward you, and from that place, still, calm, centered, you begin to watch something miraculous happen. Opportunities find you. People begin to shift around you. The world, which once felt like it was working against you, starts moving through you. And it all started the moment you stopped chasing. But this isn't the end, because now that you've become the magnet, what happens next is something most people will never experience. So here you are. And while it may feel like the end of something, in truth, this is the beginning, not of a chase, not of a grind, but of a quiet, powerful shift into alignment. This is the moment where everything you've absorbed, everything you've questioned, and everything you've unlearned converges into one truth. You were never supposed to run after success. You were supposed to become the version of yourself who no longer needs to. The path you've been on was never broken, only misunderstood. And now that your understanding has deepened, you no longer walk with desperation, but with presence. No longer with tension, but with trust. Alignment isn't about being flawless or detached from reality. It's not about pretending to be above emotion or pretending you no longer care. It's about moving through the world with a deep, unwavering inner stability, one that no longer needs external validation to feel whole. You begin to notice how differently you respond. You don't shrink to please, and you don't puff yourself up to be seen. You stop trying to manage how you're perceived because your energy now speaks louder than performance ever could. Where there once was effort, there is now ease. And that ease is not laziness. It's the quiet confidence of someone who finally knows they don't have to chase what already belongs to them. This is what it means to align with the backwards law. It means surrendering the need to force while simultaneously stepping fully into your power. It means shifting from need to embodiment, from striving to allowing. You still take action, but it no longer comes from fear or scarcity. It comes from knowing, from clarity, from the grounded sense that what you want is already finding its way to you because you've become the kind of person who naturally attracts it. Life begins to meet you with less resistance, not because it suddenly got easier, but because you stopped pushing against your own current. The universe can finally respond to who you are, not to who you're trying to be. What you used to chase, approval, recognition, money, love, now begins to orbit you, not because you're louder or more aggressive, but because your frequency has changed. You've become the signal, not the seeker. You've shifted from a state of proving to a state of being. And in this shift, you realize something profound. The people, opportunities, and outcomes that are aligned with your highest self don't need to be forced. They arrive on time, in flow, in rhythm with your inner reality. From this place, you are no longer driven by lack. You are powered by presence. You are no longer asking life to validate you. You are standing in the truth that you are already enough, already worthy, already magnetic. The desperate striving has ended, not because you've given up, but because you've finally stepped into a version of yourself that trusts, a version that understands that success was never supposed to be a battle. It was always meant to be a resonance. The life you've been chasing doesn't unfold through force. It opens through alignment. This is your arrival, not at the finish line, but at the doorway of something infinitely more real. From here, the question is no longer, how do I get there? It becomes, how deeply can I live from here? Because when you live from alignment, everything you once fought for starts moving toward you, not as a reward for your struggle, but as reflection of who you've become.